These islets in the taiga, the launchers of the northernmost cosmodrome by chance rose next to the clearing along which the young Peter the Great rode 300 years ago to look at foreign naval ships in the port of Arkhangelsk. Then along this road in the opposite direction Lomonosov went to study his mind. Now here is the beginning of one of the roads to space. The busiest in terms of the number of artificial satellites put into orbit, the northernmost cosmodrome, until recently, tried to be the most secret. The natural camouflage was low clouds, taiga, swamps, remoteness from large settlements. The fall of spent rocket stages occurred in the waters of the seas of the Arctic Ocean and sparsely populated areas of the north.
"40 years ago, in the year of the launch of the first artificial satellite of the Earth from the Baikonur Cosmodrome, the first echelons with builders and officers arrived at the Plizhitsk station. Colonel Grigoriev was appointed the first commander of the facility. Recent frontline soldiers worked in the most difficult conditions. But from the point of view of the builders, the place for the launch complexes was chosen very well. The high steep banks of the Yamtsa River made it possible to reduce the amount of work and shorten the construction time of the launch complexes. And the close location of the Plizhitsk railway station provided transportation of building structures and missiles, which could be delivered to the facility only by rails. In less than 3 years, by the 61st year, 4 launchers were built over the Taiga River by the enormous efforts of thousands of people.
Economy could no longer cope with solving all the tasks, and on March 17, 1966, the launch of the Cosmos 112 satellite from the Plesetsk rocket and space test site was opened by the launch of the future Cosmodrome. The spacecraft launched into orbit from the Plesetsky polygons were reported with a short phrase in the Soviet Union. The launch of another artificial Earth satellite under the space program was carried out. By the end of the 60s, new types of artificial Earth satellites appeared, new launch vehicles and launch complexes were created. Space rocket launches have begun from the Voskhod and Raduga launch complexes. They launched navigation spacecraft into orbit, on the basis of which the Nadezhda rescue satellite was created under the Kaspia-Sarsat project. The main element of the international satellite search system for ships, aircraft and people in distress. Over the years of their duty in orbit, more than 3,000 people have been rescued. Today, one of the launchers is being converted into a liquid rocket of the Rocket Light class for launching communication satellites and small-sized research vehicles. Since 1977, the Cyclone 3 launch vehicles have been launching meteorological satellites of the Meteor series and Geodetic Monsoon. For more than a quarter of a century, Soyuz and Molniya launch vehicles have been putting communications satellites into orbit for military and civilian consumers. The Soyuz launch vehicle was used to launch reserve spacecraft into circumpolar orbits. The great national and economic importance of cosmonautics became more and more obvious. From the Plesetsk Cosmodrome, satellites of the Bayan series with representatives of the animal world of the planet went into near-Earth orbits. These rhesus monkeys have done a lot of work for science. Almost 70% of the spacecraft launched in the country went into orbit from the Plesetsk Cosmodrome. This is more than a third of all launches in the world. More than 30 years of active work of the Cosmodrome and only a few years of its official recognition. When a separate branch of the military space forces of Russia was created in 1992, its first commander was a man who began his service here at the Northern Training Ground, then Vladimir Leontievich Ivanov was his chief. In each military unit of the Cosmodrome, launches of launch vehicles are marked with asterisks. There are thousands of them in the city. A motor truck goes past the memorable places from site to site. There is always enough to do at the Cosmodrome. Daily work is underway to prepare for the launch of the next rockets with artificial Earth satellites. It is planned to replace the Soyuz and Molniya launch vehicles with a Rus launch vehicle equipped with a new control system and propulsion system with improved energy characteristics. Soon, technical and universal launch complexes for medium and heavy class launch vehicles will be added to 9 launchers and 7 assembly and test buildings. According to scientists, the new launch complex being built on the site recaptured from the taiga will successfully serve for decades in the new century.